All right, guys, so today I'm in a 2021 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1. And I'm pretty excited to get behind the wheel of this car because it's not only the first official muscle car on my channel, on top of that, it's the most powerful car on my channel thus far, 650 horsepower. And it's the kind of car that a lot of people, in fact, we just ran into Johnny Lieberman, and he told me that I'm gonna love this car and that I should get one of these practically over, say, the cars some of my viewers know I like, M3s, M4s. So I'm excited to get behind the wheel and really see what it's all about. Before we go, if you like the video, make sure to like it. And if you want to see more content like this, subscribe. It helps my channel out. And without further ado, I haven't even driven this car more than 5 feet, so I'm excited to go, but let's get it on the road and let's see what it's like. All right, so setting off here in the ZL1, I can't lie, it took a couple minutes to get accustomed to the car, and I actually just jumped out of a Supra. I don't know if you guys can see it behind me right now, but two different cars, right? One's a 3-liter, 6-cylinder, very familiar, not quite as capable as this, but very familiar to me, same engine my car has and whatnot. And this car, on the other hand, is what I would call like a track beast, you know, your affordable GT3, right? So it's a manual as well, so I'm excited to be behind the wheel, but I gotta like reacclimate and readjust myself to the car. It's immediately a very intense car, very wide, has a lot of road presence, and you kind of feel its size within the lane. Personally, I do prefer slightly smaller cars, but the second you start taking some turns and just feel the pure grip in this car, like you don't even like care about its size. You're more focused on its sheer grip, and it's really ridiculous. I mean, I'm probably going about 4/10, and it's like scaring me shitless, but also I know it's so capable. I'm kind of like dumbfounded right now, and I'm kind of in a little bit of disbelief because I've always been so like anti-muscle car, especially when I was a little younger. And right now I'm driving pretty, you know, legitimate muscle car. Obviously this isn't even, you know, your typical 2SS or whatever. This is a top of the range Camaro, not the 1LE package, sure, but a very capable car that can do a 7-minute, 30-second lap around the Nürburgring. So a very capable vehicle. And I'm on one hand, I feel this like confidence to keep going further, but I also can tell that I'm in a vehicle that is a little bit above what I'm normally accustomed to. And there is a little bit of that learning curve and that notion of, hey, how can I improve? How can I get better? What I immediately notice and love is just the grip. It feels like I'm on rails in a way that I haven't felt in a long time. Yes, I drove the GT3 RS, the .1, 991.1 GT3 RS very recently on my channel. I'm not gonna, you know, compare them directly. Obviously, car costs about 4 times the price of this car, and it's a slightly different approach to the same kind of end goal of track driving or high level performance driving. I realize I haven't even looked at the camera in a while because I've been so, you know, just not distracted. I've been so drawn into the road and the experience. So despite being a manual, and even though I just got behind the wheel, it has auto rev matching. In fact, there are 2 paddles here on the steering wheel that let you turn rev matching on and off. It's not my favorite placement for auto rev matching. I know it's what Chevrolet does. Same thing as in the Corvettes, the C7s, the C8s. Again, not my favorite placement for a rev match switch, but I'm just so used to paddle shifters being there. You gotta give it a little rib. Let's see. Let me tell you guys about some of the basic numbers here with the ZL1. So ZL1s start at about 65 grand. So really not a tremendously expensive car for what you're getting, which is a 6.2 liter supercharged V8 producing 650 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque. A whole lot of power. Obviously you can get it with a 10-speed automatic as well, but here with the manual, I mean, oh my God. Hearing that supercharger whine, it's an amazing experience. But back to the numbers. So for about 65 grand, you're looking at one of the best value propositions in the, I'll even say sub $100,000 range when it comes to a real track weapon, a car with straight line speed. The ZL1 does the quarter mile in about 11.5 seconds at 127 miles an hour. So pretty high trap speed. The ZL1 kind of used to be the drag Camaro, and the Z28 was more of the track oriented one, but at this point I feel like they've kind of balanced it out, right? Like a 1LE package for about 7 grand that gives you wider wheels, even wider tires, and different suspension setup. All of that and more aero. That car is basically the full track package Camaro, and a standard a standard ZL1 like this is not too far off. At the Nürburgring, this standard ZL1 does about a 7-minute 30-second lap, and the 1LE cuts that by about 14 seconds at 7 minutes 16 seconds, which is only about 3 or 4 seconds off of a 991.2 GT3. So it gives you a little bit of a sense of how capable this car truly is. Now, here on a beautiful sweeping road, it's pure bliss. Like I'm much more distracted by the driving experience than I would like. Typically when I'm making these videos, it's pretty easy to focus on the video itself. And right now, like, I've barely looked at the camera. My mind's going a million miles an hour because I'm so focused on the driving experience. And that's not that it's a difficult car to drive, it's that it's a very sensory experience. And much like the GT3 RS was, except now you're adding in a manual, which only, of course, only adds to the excitement and the experience, but also requires thus even more of your attention. Now, I gotta admit that this ZL1, first of all, on its own, has made me kind of fall in love a little bit with the Camaro in a way that I didn't expect to. But the 6th gen Camaro here seems to be a pretty solid improvement from the 5th gen. That's kind of the original new Camaro of the last 15 years or so. Probably a little less than 15 years, but it's the car that became famous as Bumblebee in Transformers. There's a little Bumblebee here by the starter button in homage to that. But yeah, so even though they've improved the 6th gen, you still don't have great visibility here in the Camaros in general. Front visibility is better now than it was, but your side windows are still a little bit shorter than I like, and that rear deck is just so high up that it takes away from your rear visibility a bit too. I don't want to say Johnny Lieberman was right, but you are pretty quick to forget all about that, especially out here in the canyons where visibility is your number one concern, and your number one concern is driving, where my hands are gripped to an Alcantara steering wheel using an Alcantara shifter. I'm not even going more than 5 or 6 tenths, and I'm still hauling like mobbing so hard. And I can imagine if I had this car in my possession for maybe a week or two, I could be doing all of these turns at really ludicrous speeds. Thank God I don't, for my own sake and for my insurance's sake. And the way the gearing is, like, you can just stay in 3rd and 4th, so you don't find yourself needing to downshift to get into the power band. Obviously that's largely due to having a 650 horsepower and 650 pound-foot torque supercharged motor, but I don't feel the need to have to shift down as much. And on top of that, on top of not having the need to shift down, the gearing is tall enough in 4th that I could definitely break some crazy speed limit laws and whatever, meaning I can go well into illegal speeds without needing to shift up. So I can just chill in 4th, maybe go into 3rd through some slightly twistier stuff, but I like that gearing, and it makes me, as someone who hasn't had much time in this car, feel very comfortable pushing it. So, if you're someone who's thinking to yourself, hey, I'm gonna grab one of these because I want either a track weapon, in which case the 1LE is even better, or more realistically, a semi-daily / canyon carver, this is just plug and play, absolute missile. And I'm really liking the little input. So the steering feel, the seating position, the shifter feel, the fact that you have pretty easy to read gauges, but more importantly, a tremendously easy to read head-up display that gives you your RPMs, your speed, it gives you your lateral Gs as well as your current gear. Just makes driving this car like almost like a video game, and not in a bad way, because the car is still very analog in its sensory feeling, but video gamey enough in the fact that you have all the information you need right in front of you, and you're then able to just execute what you want to execute. Now, the one true downside of the Camaro is the fact that despite its large footprint, I told you guys it's a wide car, it's a big car, you feel it the second you get in, the inside is pretty small. You have almost a non-existent rear seat, and that's due to both legroom as well as headroom. Sure, it's serviceable for kids and maybe for smaller people, closer to 5 foot tall, can maybe fit back there. Not a great place, definitely for a guy my size, is 6'2" to fit. But that brings me to the most exciting part of this car, the very most exciting part of this car. And I know you guys know what I'm about to say. It's the tall boy test, baby. And this one's a doozy. So without further ado, let's check out the tall boy test here in the ZL1. All right, guys, exhaust time. All right, well, tall boy test, jokes aside, and enjoying the beautiful sound of this V8. I mean, I'm just dumbfounded. This car has surprised me tremendously because I did come into it a little bit like, muscle car, Camaro, whatever, you know. I'd rather have an M4, and I would not. Like, I'd definitely rather have this, certainly, than an F80 to M4. Now, can't speak on the new generation of M cars in general too much because the M3 is the main one that's out now, and I haven't driven either the M3 or the M4, but certainly this is, I mean, this is a cut above for sure. This is damn near close to GT3 territory when it comes to the whole driving experience. Of course, again, not the, you know, size of the car and the refinement and the luxury and the price, but I mean, perfect. You're paying a third of the price of it. You're paying about 60, 65 grand for one of these, maybe 75 grand for a 1LE. That's well over $100,000 less than your typical GT3s are, especially out the door. So the value is there. I mean, I'm telling you guys, I'm not even pushing the car that hard, and I'm able to do things that I would only dream of doing in a car like my own. It's really, really a super capable car, and I'm much more willing to forgive the little things I don't like about, say, most muscle cars in general when I'm behind the wheel of something like this than a 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder Camaro. You know, the SSs are okay, the V8s, they're pretty solid, but I'm not trying to personally drive a, you know, LT or whatever, the, you know, the basic stuff. It's not for me. That's true of almost any muscle car, but when you're talking about stuff like this, I mean, do I have to say more? This car, I'd be remiss to not mention a couple of its cool features before I wrap up, which is that it has, of course, rev match, as I mentioned. I believe it has like hill start, all the kind of basic stuff you'd expect in your modern day manual car. But on top of that, you have line lock, which lets you do basically burnouts. You have launch control regardless of manual or automatic. I'm sorry if the audio is a little messed up here on these bumps, but this does have mag ride, and it is pretty good compared to the 1LE, which is really, really stiff. But again, then, you know, 15 seconds faster around the ring and an even more intense track weapon. And with all of that said, guys, I am again blown away by this car. It has surely changed my mind on these top of the line muscle cars, and at least the Camaro ZL1 for that matter. So before these bumps mess up too much of my audio, I'm gonna say that if you guys enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. New videos are coming out every single week. Comment down below, let me know what you guys are trying to see. I will do my best to make it happen. And on that note, with a little blip and back to third, this is Rio. Peace out.